Activision devs do not play their own game. It's not your dad doesn't support you.
You should know, you worked at a coffee shop, you stupid bitch.
My name is Casey, and absolutely not fucking Tanner, because my parents don't hate me that much.
Hey, did they have just 8 patches lined up, but they just didn't release them because they were on break? No, you moron kids.
Then we'll, of course, get into it. Change your fucking name and get scammed. He's feeling under the weather.
I probably won't say another word until Stay Humble, so have a good pod, Raz. I'll be here listening.
Got it. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Dropshot, a Call of Duty podcast, episode number, not entirely sure. I think it's 235.
That sounds right. I think that's right.
It could be a different number, and it'll be in the title if it is, but that doesn't matter that much. Because today we have a very special episode, irrespective of the serial number, okay? And we're very excited to get into it. My name is Casey, also known as Razanon. I am joined, as always, by my good friend Tanner. Tanner, how you feeling today, bud?
Feeling good. Excited. Real good.
Yeah, I'm feeling sick, which is making me feel like dog shit, but... You've
been sick for a long time, buddy.
Oh, it's a disaster, yeah. I have a dog shit immune system, which surprises no one, really. But that's a topic for another time. And we are also joined today by very special guest, friend of the pod, focus of today's episode, Thomas Henderson. Tom, how are you, man? Thanks for joining us.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. How's it going? Yeah, I'm doing well. Hope you're both doing good as well.
Yes.
Great.
We're doing the best we can, man. Have you ever... So, you made a tweet a while ago about... You were thinking about starting a podcast or something. And then this gave Tanner and I the idea. We had the idea like probably a month before that. But then we really got the idea. Like, we should ask him if he wants to be on. So we did. And then you were like, listen, you guys are kind of cringe. There are better podcasts asking me to be on. So forget, I'll pass. No, what you actually said was like, oh, every single podcast has asked me to be on. And I'm just going to kind of like chill for a minute, but like message me in a few weeks. We're like, all right, cool. And then you messaged us like a week later and you're like, you know what? I'll come on. So that implies to me that this is like among the first kind of times you've done this. You've spoken up. I know you have a YouTube channel, so the people have heard your voice, but have you ever done anything in this vein before?
I've done one other podcast, which was with a Battlefield, like a smaller guy. It was 3,000 subs or something at the time, and that's the only one. It does interest me wanting to do it on myself, but the problem is with these podcasts, I'm not sure if you follow any other insiders and stuff like that, but anytime that something is mentioned vaguely, it usually goes in headlines and stuff like that, like this person has said this and stuff like that. So I'm kind of just leaving it on the back burner, going to see what happens, and we'll see how this one does it. It might trigger me to pull the trigger on it, but we'll see.
Yeah, it seems kind of like a tough. Like, it depends on what the subject of the podcast would be, because I'm certain you could make like a good, engaging podcast that you do maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks or something. But it would have to be about more than just like breaking news and like leaks about games and shit. Because as you probably know better than I do, maybe I'm wrong about this, but my impression is there's like, I don't know, a couple months where there's like 8 leaks every hour, and then there's like 10 months of the year where there's like 1 leak total. And it's like, how do you make a podcast in like a semi-even, semi-regular podcast in that vein? I imagine that would be very difficult,
I mean, not necessarily, but that's the issue, right? Where if you're talking about rumors, then what will happen is a lot of websites will pick it up and then run with it. So there's always rumors flying around.
Yes, there are.
I'm assuming we're going to get into a lot of those today.
Yes, we will.
So yeah, there's a lot of that's the problem. It's like I'd rather just personally, from my perspective, it makes a lot more sense for me to write an article on something and get paid for it rather than do a podcast.
I see. That makes a lot of sense.
You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's
of course, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
And especially with other insiders, you'll see that the credibility, like some people say that, I'm obviously not going to try and mention any names, but you'll always see
come back Thursday,
insider
listeners.
Yeah, you'll always see X insider isn't really trusted because 3 months ago he said on his podcast that X game might be coming this year or whatever, and then it ruins your credibility and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Pterodactyls.
Yeah.
New map. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, totally agree with you there. So yeah, let me just add, for all of you listening, here is the structure for today's episode, roughly. We're gonna obviously we're gonna talk with Tom. We're gonna ask about kind of like almost like behind the scenes kind of things. This will make more sense when we get into specific questions, but how leaking shit works. Because a lot of it, I just don't understand. Like, I understand, and we're going to get more into it, but like, the very basic premise, it makes sense to me, right? There's some guy, he finds things out before they're announced, and then he like tweets or writes articles about them. Okay, sure, I get that. But there's way more, I would imagine, that goes into it that we want to understand as much as we are able to. So that's kind of the vein we're going to start the episode with. And then we're going to ask a couple clarifying questions about things both Tom and maybe others have said about MW2, Warzone 2, DMZ, Escape from Activision, and all these other things. And I'll tell you now, he's going to share some things. He's going to not share other things. He's going to say no to some questions. He's going to say no comment to some questions. And that's fine, because there might be men with Activision suits and guns outside of his home right now, listening to his broadcast live. And look, hey, Tom's a grown-ass man. He's got bills to pay. He might have children to feed. We're going to get into that too, if he wants to share. Kind of a weird thing to say, so we'll edit that out. And so, you know, he's welcome to say no comment or anything. But we're going to do our best, and we are going to, I think, in that second half, get into, again, talking about things that have already come out, getting some clarification, some things we're confused on, and maybe getting a couple more details, whether they weren't clear or just haven't been released or anything like that. That's kind of the plan for the day. And obviously we will probably go off script as things come up, but that's how we're going to be doing this episode. So, and if you're a new listener, there will be timestamps when the episode's on YouTube or on the RSS feed. So, with that said, let's get into it. Let's start here. Tom, who are you? Do you have another career, or is the writing, for example, that you do for websites and other things in that vein your main kind of gig?
Well, my name is Tom Henderson. Online, at least, is what I'll say there.
Okay, interesting.
So, so I do have other avenues of income. I've done influencer relations, so I've been involved with a lot of the sponsorship stuff with influencers, or setting some of that stuff up. I do social media marketing, social media advertisement, and quite a lot of stuff with gaming, but not necessarily, obviously, leaking out stuff that I know that I've signed NDAs for and stuff like that. So believe it or not, I do sign NDAs, and I've never broken one so far. So
is part of an NDA is part of the thing you can't disclose with whom you signed the NDA?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
That was my next question, so got it. Interesting. Yeah. That is somewhat surprising, although it depends, I guess, on the specifics. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm between 20 and 30.
Between 20 and 30?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Interesting. You have a lot of wisdom. So you strike me as older than 20. And
no, I'm sure Tanner said in a previous podcast they had really bad takes, so I don't.
Yeah, well, yeah, man.
I do listen, so
yeah. Well, okay, yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's get into this next question here. How did you get started in? Because the reason we know of you is through basically leaking stuff, and that's how I suspect most of our listeners know of you. That's how I suspect most Call of Duty fans in general would know about you, is because not only do you leak things, but you are reliable. And this is something we've said quite a few times, especially now. We're so jaded with these goddamn leakers by now having done this podcast for 2 years. You, Ralph's balls. What's that? Ralph's Valve. That guy seems pretty good. That one website, VGC. They seem pretty good. And you. That's it. I'm done with everyone else. These are the things I trust now. And you've been wrong, I think, as far as I can recall, exactly once. But that's with an asterisk, because at the time you said it about Ural Mountains, you weren't actually wrong. It's just like Activision changed their mind later. As far as I understand, that's what happened. So that's like a, were you wrong? Like, not really. You know, you couldn't have predicted. You don't have a crystal ball. Or maybe you do. We'll get into it. But that is why we were excited to talk to you, because you also will go quite a while just without leaking anything, because you don't know anything. And I'm sure
or you can't talk about it, probably.
Or you can't talk about it. You signed an NDA, shill. So you know, you might like hear rumors. You might be 95% sure, and then you just don't say anything because you don't want to be the asshole on Twitter who immediately tweets as soon as he hears a fart of a whisper of a rumor about some next game that he thinks is going to get him a lot of retweets. At what confidence interval would you say you feel like you ought to leak something? What are the factors that contribute to whether or not you would like to share information with the world about Call of Duty or Battlefield or any other kind of video game?
Yeah, so the first question on how did I get started in this space? I've been doing this for a very long time, especially with Call of Duty. I don't know how far back you guys go with Call of Duty and stuff, but I've been this year is my 10th year of doing this now.
Jeez.
Obviously, more recently, it's been getting a lot more attention and stuff like that. But yeah, I think Black Ops 2 was the first one where it kind of started. And that was doing like theories on Call of Duty Ghost. And then what happened with Call of Duty specifically was that I did a theory on the Chem Strike, you know, the game ending.
Oh, yeah.
5 kill streak or whatever it was. Yeah. So I did a YouTube video.
Like the nuke.
Yeah,
I see. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did a YouTube video on that and do this theory of like looking back in during the Cold War when the Russians had, I can't remember the name of whatever it was, but they was going to send tungsten rods from space to hit Earth, and that was going to cause a nuke.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So I did a theory on that, and then
Sputnik.
Activision, or should I say, Activision, someone from Activision reached out and said, that's a really good theory. and then from there, that relationship kind of progressed.
Oh, okay. So you basically had you used your brain and you were like, okay, based on what we all know and and history and stuff, I think there's going to be like a new kill streak or something. And then someone at Activision was like, damn, this guy figured it out. How did he do that? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm going to DM him and be like, yeah, you're right, or something. That's how this started.
Basically, yeah.
Wow. That makes some sense. Why would that guy do that, though? Like, what does he get out of that, you know?
Well, I mean, in terms of developers and stuff, they don't necessarily get anything out of it. What you'll find is with developers that leak is that they usually have ill intentions towards the company or the developer or something's going on over at the studio that they're not happy with, basically. Ooh. So that's why there's places like Ubisoft where a load of things will leak out because. So
are all of your Activision contacts women? They seem to be the most unhappy over at Activision with all the cubicle crawls going on. So that was a joke. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you. Please continue.
Well, no comment on that.
Okay, it's got it.
But yeah, so in terms of developer leaks, and what I've got to be clear is that this is coming from my own experience. That there's insiders out there that have been doing this for a lot longer than I have, and some of them started 20, 30 years ago, and they've had friends since then, you know. So, but yeah, from my experience, developers will usually leak if there's ill intentions, and that's why there's a lot of
that's super interesting.
Yeah, that's why there's a lot of stories about like Activision, Ubisoft, Quantic Dream that come out about all of these abuse allegations and stuff like that. Because what you've got to remember, I mean, I've not personally really reported on any of that stuff, but if a journalist has been telling this stuff about sexual harassment, abuse, etc., it's likely they're also getting some more information on games. So like, it's kind of a you report on this and I'll give you this.
Oh wow! Nice little trade-off for him.
Quid pro quo, huh? Interesting. That makes sense, though. That makes sense. Okay. Wow.
So yeah, that what, like I said, that's from my experience.
Right.
With developers, in my experience, developers are very tight-lipped, and with developers, it's not like you can go to a developer and be like, I want this, this, and this, or can you tell me this, this, and this? It's more so the last resort in corroboration. So, for example, with the DMZ footage that leaked out, that 10-second clip, me and another leaker, we had that in November.
Oh my gosh.
And then it was like, right, let me send that to this developer, just verify it, and then it's literally just like a thumbs up reaction emoji or a yes or something like that. It's not getting into all of these in-depth details.
Yeah, I see.
You know what I mean? It's developers are pretty tight-lipped, and it usually the first breaking point would be when the game starts to go in QA. That's when your leaks are going to start coming out.
Yeah, I see. Wow. That's super interesting. So you're saying like a lot of leaks, it's like they want to leak to like someone, a journalist or some big name, so that the journalist or whatever gets like details on DMZ, for example. But then in exchange, they want the journalist to also share like, hey, we're also being like chained to our desks over here. Can you call the government? Like, there's a hostage situation. But in your case, as you just said, you don't really report on, I don't know, harassment or other kind of misdeeds that are being done in general. So for your sources, is there a different kind of quid pro quo, or are you just close enough with these people that when you do go to them as a last resort corroboration, as you've said, they like you enough to just be like, yeah, that's thumbs up, because they know you're trustworthy and you're not gonna, throw them under the bus?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Like I said, I've been doing this for 10 years. 10 years, by the way, is not long in the video game industry. You've got insiders that have been doing this for 30 years, so you can only imagine the developer sources that they've got. But developers come to you for a whole range of different reasons. And just like I said, based on my experience, it's usually because they've got ill intentions, or they just don't like what's going on at the company and stuff like that.
So sometimes they do it just for spite. Like, I'm not going to get anything out of sharing this, but fuck Activision, for example. So, you should leak this.
Yeah, pretty much.
That makes a lot of sense. That's been my working theory. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but and then at the same time, you can also just have developers that just want to talk about what they're working on.
They're just excited to share.
Yeah, so with Warzone 2 and the DMZ, a lot of that stuff from my side came from someone who was just excited to talk about what they're working on, which is a really good sign, because with previous Call of Duty titles, it's been the complete opposite. So, I mean, we'll just have to see how
they have nothing exciting to say. Yeah, they don't want to talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that might be exciting, but here's the thing, and Tom, you and I might disagree on this topic, but I don't care at all about an Activision developer's opinion on the quality of their game. They don't play their own game. They don't have any experience like playing Call of Duty. I mean, the head dev, Ted Timmons, he has 300 games lifetime of Warzone. What was it, Tanner?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I don't remember what it was.
Hey, it wasn't enough. And it was a sub 1 KD. Head developer, by the way. Not even competent enough to kill people more than he's dying.
It's higher than average.
In a game in which he is the lead developer. Got it.
Yeah, but what you've got to remember is that he's also been developing the game for 2 or 3 years, right? So you looking at public stats doesn't necessarily reflect.
Yeah.
I know people that have developed a game and not touched it on launch day, or never touched it because
they're sick of it.
Just a straight. Imagine just working on a game for 3 years straight.
Yeah.
That's what I was actually. Yeah. That does make sense, because if it's something you're working on every day, I don't know if I'd want to play it either. It's like what they always say about general contractors and people in construction have the worst houses because all they do all day long is work on other people's houses, and they don't want to come home and work on their own. And I feel like that'd be a similar thing with video game developers. It's like, yeah, they're dealing with bugs and all these other issues all day long, people complaining about the game. It's like, I wouldn't want to go home at night either and play that video game probably.
Yeah, that's fair. I was somewhat joking. If the devs are excited about a game, I would say that's a better sign than them not being excited. But all my point is, on a serious note, is that just because Activision devs are excited about MW2, that says almost nothing for me, because they've made a lot of bad decisions from my point of view, but that's a topic for another time. But that is very interesting. So another question I have, based on what you've said so far, is you typically use devs as kind of a last resort source of corroboration. If that's the case, then from whom do you get so for example, with that DMZ footage, if you used a dev, hypothetically, if you used a dev to corroborate the DMZ footage, then hypothetically, what type of person, if not a dev, had you gotten that video clip from initially in November?
QA. So the
say that again. I'm sorry.
QA, quality assurance.
Oh, okay.
QA testers.
Player testers, basically.
Got it.
So, I mean, we can break this down by person, I guess, because there's so many different types of people who will leak and the reasons for leaking and stuff like that. Because you've got QA and player testing. So when QA and player testers leak, that's typically when a lot of information will come out, and it's also information that's reliable because typically player testers don't really care about any potential repercussions that might come to them. They're being paid shitty, they're doing long hours, and
they don't have a union.
They don't have a union. And like I said, with the developers, some developers leak because they have ill intentions, and that is exactly the same for QA and playtesting. And that this isn't just with Activision, this is with pretty much every single studio.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then once a game does go into QA, that is when a lot of journalists will then start to pull the trigger and then do stories on it themselves anyway, because then it's difficult for the publisher to track who's actually done the leak.
Was. Oh, yeah. That's smart. So now everyone listening can assume once leaked gameplay footage starts coming out, it is very likely that game is in like an alpha testing kind of stage.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, interesting.
Pretty much, dude. Yeah. So if a particular mission, for example, so what you've got to bear in mind is that they are very clever with how they develop games and how they play test it. So a particular group of play testers might be given one specific mission. So if that mission ends up leaking, which I can say that it has done for Modern Warfare 2, then, well, now Activision knows that
one of these three dipshits, right?
Yeah. Well, it's not free. It might be 15, 20 or whatever. But
okay, yeah.
But then all they could do is add that into a spreadsheet, have another play test a couple of months down the line, where
split
they then split. Yeah. So then, you know what I mean? So
sneaky, dude. Interesting.
Yeah, a lot of investigation work. But yeah, typically when a game goes into playtesting, that's when leaks happen. It's harder to track, and you just get better, more accurate information. Because once a game is in playtesting, it's already gone past that pre-production phase, where they're trying to figure out the direction of the game and stuff like that.
Right. So is that why, like back in November when you said you saw DMZ footage, is that why you didn't mention it back then at all? Because you didn't want to basically get anyone in trouble, and they just sent you the footage like trusting you? Is that kind of how that works?
I think that I did cover it a little bit.
Did you?
Yeah, I think I did do a couple of tweets. But it's like back then we heard from 3 different people that was DMZ. And now people who've seen it recently are like, oh, this is Warzone 2. And it's like, well, there's some discrepancies there. So, but I'm pretty sure that I talked about it pretty early on. I mean, what you've got to bear in mind with Modern Warfare 2 is that this game started leaking before Vanguard released. And the problem is, especially with Call of Duty now, is that games are leaking so early that by the time the game releases, it could be not a completely different product. I mean, we knew back in September, October that it was going to be Modern Warfare 2. I think even from an educated guess point of view,
I knew that in 2019. Yeah.
That it was going to be Modern Warfare 2. Just looking at the sales numbers, you know that they're going to do a sequel.
Right.
So yeah, the earlier that stuff starts leaking, the more inaccurate it's going to be. And I know stuff about Treyarch's next title. I know stuff about Sledgehammer Games, what they're potentially doing. It's like, I'm not going to talk about that for another year or two because what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. And because Activision can change their mind, you know.
Well, yeah. I mean, with what's going on with Microsoft at the moment, anything that's happening now could be completely different in 8 to 9 months'
That's
time.
a good point.
Whenever
especially
it goes through.
With that upheaval.
Oh, yeah, they can change everything.
That makes a lot of sense. That's a good point. That's okay. So if someone wanted to like start getting into like leaking Call of Duty stuff, your advice would have to basically be like, get lucky, I guess. I mean, sit on your ass, get popular, ask people, ask like devs or QA testers to give you shit. Well, there's nothing like you could do. There's not like some guy you can go to. There's no shadow broker of like, I don't know, leaking contacts or anything. Because you did kind of like, you got very fortunate well, to be fair, you had a good theory that turned out to be correct. And then you got fortunate and some dev was like, hey, good job or whatever. But you can't just get into this if you want, basically. That's what it sounds like.
I think it just comes down to luck or maybe persistence. I mean, if you ask enough developers on LinkedIn, maybe one of them will be like,
maybe one of them their boss yelled at them that day and you got something. True, yeah, maybe.
But yeah, I've heard of a lot of wild things within the Call of Duty leaking community. There's I know that some people have paid people to leak stuff.
Whoa.
Which is, I mean, I don't really want to touch on it that much, but yeah, some people were paying QA to leak stuff, and I'm sure that is, well, illegal. So stuff like that is
that has to be super illegal. Paying someone to break an NDA.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure Activision was on top of it. I don't really remember. Yeah. I don't really remember how that stuff happened, but it's like at the end of the day, if I know who's leaking it, Activision's going to know. So
yeah,
that's just how it goes.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, as well as that, being friends with content creators is a good one. Like I said, I've done a lot of content creator sponsorships and stuff like that. But not only that, you'll see that there's a lot of people that know cover leaks, even if they're involved with Activision or EA or whoever it may be. So it might be the case where a content creator's like, you know what, Tom? I've done 15 videos of your leaks these past 2 months and I've made, I don't know, X amount of money. I've just been invited to this event. Boom, here you go. Here's all the information. A favor for a favor.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah, there are a lot more content creators now that even seem to like talk about these leaks than they used to. Like, say, people like Exclusive Ace, J God. I feel like a few years ago, people that big would almost just ignore things until they became public knowledge. But now they do make a lot of videos and talking about like, this is a leak. We don't know if this will come true. This is what they're talking about. And I have noticed a lot of that in the last like year or so. It's definitely starting to swing that way.
It's because Activision have started to be more like open to the thought of them, I guess, because at the end of the day, leaks, they're either true or not true, but it still gets people talking about the game.
It's another form of advertising they don't have to pay for, basically.
Well, yeah, exactly. And if you've got all of your, at the end of the day, if you've got all of your major content creators covering this leak, where they're happy, they're getting money for it. Activision's happy, they're getting paid for it. The only time where it gets a little bit cloudy and a little bit like dodgy is that what you've got to remember is that leaks are leaks. Leaks have been like released to the public before Activision is ready to release it, and there's reasons for that. It could be that it's not finalized. It could be that they've got other plans for it and stuff like that. And it's like at the end of the day, a leak's a leak, and especially in the Call of Duty community, I think that's what a lot of people have forgotten, is that leaks are leaks and it's not official information. And I know you referred to me having like only the Ural Mountains. Yeah, it's like there's been a few other times I said that Vanguard was only going to have 8 maps on launch, and it came with like 16 or something.
Okay,
but it's like at the time when I said that, I'm trying to figure out if I can. I saw 8 maps, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So it's like, so it's like a dev could have been like, "Oh, yeah, here's the 8 maps that we're working on," and then it's like either jumping to conclusions or something like that, and then just tweeting it out. Whereas now, from my point of view, it's more so, right, now I've got to corroborate this. Now I've got to get as much corroboration as possible, and then do an article on it.
Yeah.
So that everything's a little bit more official or whatever. I don't know, or legitimate or whatever it may be. But it's like at the end of the day, a leak's a leak, and a lot of people in the Call of Duty community seem to run with a lot of things that are said now instead of being like,
maybe
just wait.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
And with this game, with Modern Warfare 2, there's been so many bullshit things that I've heard.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like, it's like, you know, wait a minute, but because I'm also an insider or leaker or whatever you call me, then it's like, well, I can't really say this is wrong or whatever, but now as I'm getting more into my groove and covering other games and stuff, I'm just gonna cover it what I've heard at the end of the day.
That makes sense.
So it's like, believe me, believe whoever, it is what it is, but at the end of the day, leaks are leaks.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I have another question I just thought of. So like Exclusive Ace, for example, CoD Partner, pretty sure he gets invited to go do playtests and shit, whatever, and he signs NDAs, and like sometimes he'll make a YouTube video talking about who tweeted, oh, you know, there's gonna be velociraptors that like eat your ATV in Warzone, or something, and like Exclusive Ace will talk about that and be like, this is just a leak, it's unconfirmed, but it seems likely to me. And I always think, okay, well, let's say that Ace already knew velociraptors that eat ATVs were coming to Warzone because he's a CoD partner and he already did a playtest on it, but he signed an NDA disallowing him from talking about it. But now that some other guy has leaked it, he's allowed to talk about it without violating his NDA, as long as he wasn't the first mover, and as long as he doesn't say, I know this for a fact, and he just says, I think the leak is true because it sounds like it makes sense. Does that am I right to assume a lot of times that when a CoD partner covers a leak and says, oh yeah, this seems really true and I'm really excited about it, they're saying that because they fucking know it's true, but they couldn't talk about it until someone else leaked it, and now that someone else did, they can confirm without confirming, basically. Is that a fair assumption?
Pretty much. I mean, an NDA will not allow you... Basically, what an NDA is, it's not allowing you to disclose what you've seen or done or whatever. But in a lot of NDA circumstances, if somebody else has leaked that, then you're essentially all right to cover it.
Right, exactly.
It might be that these creators will send a quick DM on Twitter to Activision, somebody over at Activision being like, can I cover this or whatever? But in a lot of videos from creators these past couple of months, they don't really know what's been going on with Modern Warfare 2. But of course, because Vanguard is, well, Vanguard.
You don't need to say much. Yeah, Vanguard is Vanguard.
And it's been a very crappy past couple of months for a lot of creators, right? Then why not cover some Modern Warfare 2 leaks? If it's real or not, it doesn't matter because they're
sadly true. You'll get ad revenue either way on YouTube.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's it. And then if it is true, well, they've signed an NDA, and then in a month's time they'll announce it officially. So
right, yeah, okay, yeah.
See, from my point of view, I would think that even them talking about someone else's leak would be like borderline breaking the NDA. So I would almost think if they do talk about a leak, then it's like almost not coming true. So that's interesting to hear for me.
It is borderline, but like I said, Activision have been very open about leaks recently. That they used to be very strict with their creators. But yeah, it's like EA at the moment with Battlefield. Like they're really strict. Like if I leak something on Battlefield, no content creators will cover it.
Well, you know what I think EA should do? I think they should film every single thing that happens in their offices so that people with brains can tell them when, and often when, they are making a mistake. Because they sit at a board meeting and they say, oh, we're going to do something, we're going to change Battlefield. That, whatever that thing they just said, right, is going to be a bad decision. Not a single good decision's ever been made for Battlefield 2042. Not once. So if they were live streaming that board meeting instead of fucking executing QA testers to keep them quiet, then maybe there would be a decent game there that has more players on it at the moment in time we are speaking right now, probably, than Battlefield 5. That's what I think EA should do. So yeah, I think Activision might be onto something, being a little more open with the leaks. Maybe EA can learn a thing or two from Activision, because as many problems as I have with Call of Duty, and there are many, they I imagine would pale in comparison to the problems I would have with Battlefield 2042 if I were masochistic enough to have ever deigned to install or, God forbid, play that game. So it is interesting to hear you say that, though. I wonder if there's a correlation, and maybe you can tell us, Tom, what your view is on this, between big game corporation publishers' openness to leaks and the quality of their games and or the sales of their games. Do you see any relationship between those things?
I mean, not really. Of course, we're seeing it with Battlefield right now, because what used to happen with Battlefield is that the EA partners did go out. They was essentially developers, the content creators. So they would actually go out. I think I was speaking to a creator not long ago, and I think he spent an entire month of the year out in Sweden. Wow. To work on.
That must have been a while ago.
Yeah,
Battlefield wasn't not a good game in a while.
It wasn't 2042, but yeah, that was one of the problems that a lot of creators had with that game, because they just wasn't involved, and it's like if I leaked something on Battlefield 2042 now and also Call of Duty at the same time, these creators would cover the Activision leaks, but they still wouldn't cover the EA ones because of the relationship that they've had set with each respected company, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it's like, EA at the moment are basically Activision 5 years ago.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, because Activision lately, they've done a lot better job at being involved than they used to be. Like, you see Raven devs talking with people on Twitter all day long, answering questions, things like that. And it's a big improvement from Modern Warfare 2019 when we didn't even get patch notes, basically. When they gave us nothing. They didn't tell us what they changed. We had no idea what was going on. I would say probably about halfway through Cold War's life cycle or so, it's like something changed and they realized, and we had been saying this since like we started this podcast 2 years ago, like, I don't think these big companies realize how beneficial it can be just for them to talk to the community and say what's going on. You're going to receive so much less hate if you just explain things. And like Raven, especially with their patch notes, everything they do on Warzone now, they've done an excellent job explaining why they do things, what their next plans are.
Or why they can't do things.
Ted has been speaking to big content creators on Twitch and stuff, and that's cool that they've been doing that. So I'm glad to see, their improvement there. And I feel like that goes along with them like being more okay with leaks, because like you're saying, at the end of the day, it does bring a ton of hype to the game in general. A lot of people talking.
Yeah, and like I said, there was the major shift with Black Ops Cold War, because do you remember when a lot of the leaks were happening with Vanguard, and even the official Call of Duty Twitter account posted like the planes with all of the just saying leaks on each of the
Yes, that was funny. Yeah.
It's like that coming from Activision is huge.
Yeah.
And, like I said, at the end of the day, as long as the community treats a leak as a leak in terms of that it's not official and it's not final, then why wouldn't the company be happy with it?
And that's excellent to see them joking around.
Yeah, and we're seeing it with Warzone 2 with all of the information that's just come out on like the bag system and stuff. It's fine that 150 playtesters in the office are saying this bag system's crap, but when you've got a whole community saying this is the worst thing that you've done for Warzone, then that's huge. They might not have had the data for that unless there was a leak.
Ooh,
yeah.
You're skipping ahead here, Tom, but I like it. We'll get more.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I'm fucking with you. That's good. I like that though. Okay. Fuck, where were we? So, yeah. Fuck, this is interesting. There are so many branching paths, dude. But let's get to this next one. Let's try this, okay? Have you ever been bullied in some capacity? So what I've written down is this. Have men in suits ever come to your home to give you a stern talking to? I don't know how far north you are. I don't know if they can like work around in Scotland, if that's where you are. So maybe they haven't. Maybe they've just like, I don't know.
They don't want to go there.
Something. They probably can't figure it out. They don't have the climbing gear necessary. But actually though, have you ever been threatened or bullied by some of these publishers, like, hey, you need to stop leaking things? Because based on, I wrote this question obviously before we talked to you at all. Based on this conversation, my guess now would be they are a lot more concerned with the leaks within their own company than with some guy to whom their leak is going. However, maybe they approach this at both ends. So I'll restate. Have you ever been threatened or warned or talked to by any of these companies in this manner?
I've never been like threatened with legal action or anything like that, because what you've got to bear in mind is that with my leaks, I'm not necessarily leaking copyrighted images, videos, stuff like that. The furthest I've gone is like drawing something.
You made a little doodle. Yeah, I remember that. That's what I was just going to mention. Yeah, yeah, that makes, okay, yeah, go on.
Do that for Battlefield 2 last year.
Yeah. So that's like the furthest I've gone. I think their concern is, like I said, and I'll probably keep on saying leaks are leaks, but once, for example, information, it could be wrong, it could be right, but if somebody leaks gameplay or images, it's like, well, they've obviously got a really big security problem. And in a lot of circumstances, especially now that I'm doing these articles and stuff like that, I'll actually reach out to the publisher for comment. So
have they ever taken you up on that?
Yeah, so usually what will happen, publisher, they're like, we're not going to give comment at this time or something along those lines, but it's like,
right.
Yeah, they've acknowledged that something in a couple of days' time or something tonight is going to be up on X website, and then they can do whatever portions they need to do on their end.
I see.
Whatever it may be. But there's been circumstances where a publisher has said this rumor is straight up fake, or it's straight up not true. There's been circumstances when they just don't give comment, and then there's been circumstances where they do give comment. But because of my situation where I'm not really writing for reputable websites like the IGNs, the GameSpots, whatever it may be, publishers are not as likely to give comment. But it's like at the end of the day, I don't want to get paid $30 for an article. So, you know what I mean? It's like, if you don't want to give comment, fine by me. I'm uploading it anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another, and that's another way to corroborate.
So that's
on the big stuff.
That makes sense.
That's probably why, like we had talked about VGC, when they usually leak stuff later on, but everything they leak, not public knowledge yet, and it's always spot on and correct. And that's because they're like a bigger, massive website, and so they can get more information from the publishers directly. Is that probably the reason for that?
That would be one of the reasons, but it's also maybe more staff on board that have more friends,
resources.
Got it. Yeah.
They just have a bigger network of friends. Like, what you've got to think about is that the majority of developers, they're all friends. They've all got each other on Facebook and LinkedIn and whatever else. It's not as secretive as what maybe the general public would make it out to be, in my opinion, anyway. I've been to places where like developers have shown me stuff on the phone or whatever. It's not, I don't know, it's not as secretive or elusive as it's made
not.
it to be.
Yeah, it's not DARPA. Fighter jet schematics. Yeah, I understand. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So, how good is your bullshit detector is my next question. You've been doing this for 10 years. And I'm sure that you have been exposed to leaks that turned out to not be true. And you often probably just don't report on that. And maybe that's because you reach out for corroboration. Like someone's like, hey, there's going to be like, wolves that will like insta thirst you if you're in fields and you get downed next month. And then you're like, well, I would imagine you'd be like, that sounds fucking insane. But so I'm going to like definitely get confirmation before I talk about this. And then you maybe do that or not. And then just, I don't know, either dispel the rumor or just don't comment on it at all. How do you vet someone's credibility? Or maybe you don't even need to anymore because you have a kind of little black book of contacts whom you've worked with for so long that everything they give you is like gonna be pretty much bang on. Because I guess if like your sources are devs who will give you thumbs up reacts on Instagram DMs and like QA testers who work at the company for a couple of years, you don't even you probably just trust them implicitly. Do you have sources, and do there exist possible sources outside of people within the company? And if so, how do you vet their credibility? How good's your bullshit detector, etc.? That was a meandering question. So if you need more clarification, let me know.
Yeah, so we're talking about if somebody sends me an email or a DM and says, hey, I've got this, this, and this. Yeah. Right?
Yes. Right. Yes. Someone you don't already know, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically how it will start off is that I will get something.
How often does that happen, real quick, before we continue?
It would depend on the time of year. Now that Summer Games Fest is coming around, I'm getting 15, 20 DMs, emails a day.
Holy shit! Of people saying they have leaks?
Yeah.
Oh my god. That's shocking to me. That's incredibly shocking to me.
This is across all games, by the way. This is
still
Call of Duty.
Yeah. But that's still crazy. Wow, I did not expect that. Anyway, please continue.
So yeah, if somebody sends a few paragraphs on, for example, I've just play tested X game, or my friend's cousin's just shown me this picture or whatever. Yeah. Usually the first line will be, "What proof have you got?" I want to see images of the game, video of the game if possible. I want to see even your NDA. I want to see. I've had people send me pictures of them sat in the waiting room at the studio.
Oh my gosh!
Okay.
And just that's usually like the first line of verification, basically. Yeah. Okay. But then of course you have these. There's really elaborate fake leakers, and I think that I might talk about it in future or something. But you have really elaborate leakers that will Photoshop stuff. I've even had somebody create an entirely new game in Unity.
What? But these people wouldn't come to you, right? Wouldn't they want to leak those things themselves so they get the clicks and the ad revenue?
I think it's because like they try and get one over you and then try and ruin your credibility. I think that's what they try to do. So, for example, I've seen.
Let's name some names.
Well, it's just like random accounts or whatever. But
things you've really never heard of. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if you prove that person to be a bullshitter, sometimes I'll just or I'll play along with it, or I'll just say like you're not pulling one over me or whatever, and then a couple of hours later it's popped up on 4chan. Wow.
4chan. Wow,
and then it's like, you see it trending on Reddit and it's like, oh man. Why?
Well, they figured out the QAnon conspiracy. You should take 4chan seriously, dude.
Yeah.
That's a joke. Okay. That makes sense. I can't believe 15 or 20 a day. That is fucking nuts, dude.
Especially now with some games first. But like I said, what you're gonna bear in mind,
though, because when you think about it, what you said makes complete sense. Because if I had like I don't have friends, but if I had like a cousin who was like, "Oh, dude, I know you have a Call of Duty podcast. I just whatever. Let's say I didn't have a Call of Duty podcast. Let's say I just played, and my cousin playtests DMZ, and he's like, dude, I just played DMZ. It was fucking crazy. Let me tell you about it. And then he doesn't have a Twitter account. He's off the grid. I don't know, if hypothetically. And I wanted to leak that, and I'm just some guy who plays Call of Duty with 3 Twitter followers or whatever. I would have to go to someone if I wanted that information to get out, and you would be the guy I would go to. So it does make sense when you think about it. I didn't think about it, but that does make a lot of sense. It sounds overwhelming. How much time do you spend a day during the season going through this horse shit?
It's pretty much turned to a full-time job now.
Jesus, fuck.
But yeah, there is certain people that I will always go to and be like, hey, is this right? Or have you heard of this? There's a lot of insiders that will corroborate with other insiders, but I don't really do that.
Leaker guild.
Yeah, I don't really do that because what you'll find is if you go to, I mean, it's happened before. Yeah, it's happened before where I've gone to somebody and being like, "Oh, have you heard about this?" And then 2 minutes later, it's on their Twitter, and it's like, "You."
I'm not surprised by that. I bet that was.
Man, that's
a joke. That makes a lot of sense.
That's happened before, but yeah, there is certain people that I've known for years, or that I can just completely trust 100% of the time, that will tell me if it's true or not. And like I said earlier on with the developer stuff, it's like I'm not harassing a developer 5-10 times a day with, or is the gold ACR coming back to Modern Warfare 2 or whatever
you have
rumors come out.
Yeah, you have like social capital with devs, and you can't just waste it on every single thing. So you only go to them as, like you said,
as a last resort. Yeah.
I would also imagine that, like, if you're getting 20 messages a day, so like in 5 days you get 100 messages, and there are probably times when 40 of those are all saying the same thing, and even though they're all random shitters, it's like, okay, well, like these 40 people that don't know each other are saying there's a bag system in DMZ, for example. Like there's probably something here. That's probably another way of vetting info, right?
Yeah. So what will usually happen is, like, you'll get a bombard of information at a specific time because, I don't know, Ubisoft has just sent out an email to 1,000 people to playtest X game. And then that's when the bombardment will come in. Like, I'll get like 40, 50 people saying, Ubisoft is now playtesting Skull and Bones. And then it's going through the process of asking each one, what do they know? Am I seeing any like bullshitters in that 30, 40 people that are saying stuff that completely don't make sense from the other 20 or whatever it is.
Exactly.
And that happens quite a bit with play test sessions, and also media events like creator events and stuff like that. But then by that point that's when all of the juicy leaks and more accurate information will come out, because the publisher is willing to show media and creators what they're working on, which means that it's probably not going to change.
That makes a lot of sense for sure. So another question, and I think this is less relevant based on this conversation now too, but it's still probably relevant to some degree. Do there exist divisions or individuals or entire departments even in companies tasked with routing out leaks? So one thing you said, for example, is that they have, like, let's say 150 QA testers, and then they have, I don't know, 25 of them each playtesting a different level. One level gets leaked on Twitter, whatever. And then you were saying there's some guy with a spreadsheet who's like, okay, well, this level got leaked, has to be one of these 25. We're going to split them up for the next playtest. And then if another level gets leaked, we've narrowed it down to whatever, 12 people, et cetera, et cetera. Who is that person that is doing all that? I would imagine maybe that's probably the head of QA. And if that is the case, then is the head of QA effectively the person who is tasked with routing out leaks? Or is it kind of a shared responsibility amongst multiple department heads? So, for example, lead dev at Raven, the lead QA tester at Sledgehammer and Raven, and then like all of those department heads, do they kind of have their little their little Zoom meetings where they say, okay, it's leak season, so we need to like figure this out and make spreadsheets? Do you know? Would you know?
I'll say that it depends on the publisher. There is some publishers that will have dedicated people, but then there's some publishers that just have that as a part of their job, right?
Right, that makes sense. Okay, yeah.
But yeah, it would come mainly down to their security teams. Like you'll see with a lot of leaks these days, there's a lot of identifiers on the screen. And then it's just
all those random bullshit numbers in the bottom left actually mean something to somebody. Yeah. Okay. I see.
Oh,
yeah, that makes sense.
I always just thought those were like build numbers or something.
No. So there was one recently. It was for a Ubisoft game, and the person like blocked out all of those numbers, but then he forgot to block out the teammates' names, so that's how he got caught.
Oh, what a fucking idiot, man! Holy shit! Yeah,
that's funny.
Another question Tanner added too, which is a great question, because so far, virtually every leak we've talked about or source of a leak is like someone's experience with something. So someone played something or saw something or developed something themselves and then told you or told someone else who told you. But are there ever, and to what degree, what proportion of leaks are like data mining shit, and how reliable are these? Because every once in a while I'll see on Twitter. So here's one, for example, that really pisses me right the fuck off. Okay, MW 2019, before that dumpster fire dog shit game came out, someone was like, "Oh, I data mined the files from the beta, and guess what? The map terminal is coming to MW 2019. Aren't you all excited?" Never came, never will come. Suck my cock and balls if you think that was a believable thing. And if you believe it's coming to MW2 for only that reason, then again, I just don't believe it. So what I've gathered from that in the MW 2019 fiasco is that some guy opened his notepad on the .exe, Control F for his favorite MW2 maps, and then the word terminal was somewhere in a file, and he was like, cool, the map's coming. So that's an example of data mining gone wrong, I would imagine. Well, it was actually. But how many leaks are data mined? To what degree is this common? And is it difficult to data mine? Or is it as simple as, I wouldn't know, I know how to open porn tabs, but I don't know how to do computer shit. So how difficult, if you know, is it to data mine effectively and not just look for the word Afghan and then say that map's coming?
Yeah, so I personally don't get involved with data mining. You tend to find that the people that do data mine are like kids or very petty or...
Really? Why is that, you think?
I'm not sure. Maybe they've learned coding in school.
I think if you know how to code, there's something wrong with you.
Or probably because they're not mature enough to form relationships with like employees at companies, so they're kind of also forced to do the data mining stuff.
Yeah. I mean, with Call of Duty, it's not difficult to data mine. I think you only need one program with a subscription of like $10 a month, and then you're aware, kind of thing. But data mine is probably one of the more accurate ways to leak, because if you know that there's an update that's just come out and X, Y, and Z has been added during that update, but it's not yet available, then obviously there's a chance that it has been worked on. And is being worked on, because from my understanding with a lot of games is that there isn't a way for them to exclude that data. So like when there is a beta, it's like, well, all the maps and whatever else are tied to the game, no matter what.
I see.
So there's
that's interesting. I didn't know
there's
that.
no way that they can exclude it. That's my knowledge of, yeah. But yeah, I mean, data mining is very effective. It's just that I don't really think there's that many people within this community that you can
trust
reliably. Yeah. So
that's interesting.
There is a few people that do it, but it's like, I mean, typically now Call of Duty leaks have become so frequent and prominent. It's like by the time a data miner leaks something, it's probably already been leaked by another avenue. So, for example, with like the King Kong and Godzilla stuff, we knew that months before it was added to the files.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because most of the data mining stuff I see now is like a week or so before the season comes out, and there's like the last update, let's say, of season 3. Someone will basically have access to the entire battle pass and will leak all the images for like, here's the entire season 4 battle pass. That's what I've been seeing mostly lately when it comes to like data mining stuff, is just little things like that are essentially you don't get until right before they come out anyways.
Yeah.
Which does make sense because by the time it's coded into the game, they've obviously developed it to code it, to put it in to be data mined. So that kind of makes sense, right? Yeah.
It's like I said, like the big stuff is probably already leaked by that point, and
that's a great point. That's a great point.
It's not like I'm going to ask a developer or QA, even QA, like, can you tell me the 100 battle pass tiers or whatever, because I want to leak it. I mean, nobody really gives.
No one gives a shit.
It also just doesn't matter. Yeah,
exactly.
There's very few people that are really into that stuff, but
next question here: what proportion of the leaks that you receive that you find to be credible or you corroborate that are very likely in your view true? Do you ever end up actually leaking prior to obviously that content being officially announced?
There isn't really a number. There isn't really a percentage that I could give. And that's why I was interested in doing my own podcast, because you do get a lot of rumors. You hear a lot of, just rumors on stuff. There's a lot of accusation talks that you hear about. There's a lot of this, and this. But like I said, you'll then get these articles saying, oh, this person has said that this company is going to acquire this company, and then it ruins your credibility or whatever. So there isn't really a percentage that I can give, to be honest.
Okay, that's interesting.
But there is information that I do sit on
indefinitely.
Just because the source of that information has said, for heads up, this is what's happening with this game, but we don't want you to talk about it. It's like, that happens from time to time.
Why? So they just want to share it with you just for your input? Like, what would be I don't know what the purpose of, for example, a dev being like, hey, heads up, this is, well, maybe because they want to preempt you leaking it if you get that same info from someone else. Maybe that's the reason?
No, I mean, typically, usually if a developer says they don't want to get that information from someone else, it's like, well, I've got it from somebody else now. I'm going to leak it.
Okay.
But like I said, I think that the gaming community landscape is very more open than what people think, and it's just like if you're friends with a builder and they're like, I worked on this 8-bedroom house today and I smashed a window, then it could be something like, I was working on this level for this game today and the audio crashed the whole build, or something like that. The build of the game. You know what I mean? It's like it's very passive talk. It's not really like
just uninteresting,
a message.
Dumb shit.
It's not necessarily a message out of the blue saying, there's this level in the game that I don't want you to leak. It more so just comes up in conversation.
Okay. So something that dictates whether or not you'll leak something credible is whether or not it's interesting. So like, if they're, I don't know, if this gun audio like crashes the game and you learn that, it's like, okay, who cares? But like, if there is something that's maybe interesting, an interesting leak that you find credible, that you end up not leaking, what would be like a reason for that? Or maybe I can even ask you, if you're willing, was there something about Vanguard or Cold War or MW 2019 that you received info on prior to the game coming out and you just never released it, but now obviously it's public knowledge, so you can talk about what that was since the games are out?
I don't think I've held on information for Call of Duty.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm trying to... I mean, there is stuff that I'm holding on to now for Modern Warfare 2, for Treyarch's next game.
But you expect to leak it eventually and prior to an announcement. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. That's it. That makes sense.
but yeah, usually I won't leak something just because I've been told not to leak it. Or it's just come up in a passive conversation. It's like you don't really want to ruin the relationship.
Yeah, the relationship is worth more than one leak. Yeah, you don't want to. You don't want to kill the cow that gives you milk every day, just for a steak dinner that night. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then on the question of will I only leak something if it's interesting, then yeah,
yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
I'm not gonna leak if I was told it, the tier 100 battle pass skin for season 4 or whatever, because it's like that's not gonna,
because no one gives a shit.
Yeah,
That makes sense. Okay, that's kind of what I expected. I just wanted to be clear. Maybe there was something I was missing. So now we're gonna get into a little bit of contentious territory. Okay, we kind of touched on this already, but we can get maybe more into it here. And I'm just gonna read this whole note. My position is that leaks are cool and all, but they don't really matter almost ever. As in, whether a leak is true or not does not at all ultimately impact how the game will play. And the only counterexample that I can think of is when someone leaked that there were going to be the scam gamble loot boxes in MW 2019, and people malded so hard on the TL that they scrapped the idea. There's one example of leaking shit actually impacting things. And in my view, every other leak, as far as I understand, all it does is serve to get information about the game before the game comes out or before the devs tell you that information, which is cool and it's interesting and I like to talk about it and I like getting leaks earlier than the devs wanted them to. Anything that makes Activision upset, it is deeply satisfying to me, in fact. So that's like fine and that's cool, but I just don't see that it's super impactful in any real transformative way, except for that loot boxes example. Am I off base with this assessment?
In
other words, does leaking something more often than I am seeing positively contribute to a game or to video games in general?
Oh yeah. I mean, the loot box example is probably the most well known, but it happens probably more than we think. I know there's not a question on here about are leakers paid by Activision and stuff like that, which is something that comes up quite a lot.
Anything that's not on here, if you want to talk about it, please talk about it. So are you paid by, are you an Activision shill? How much is your salary at Activision? Just kidding.
No, I've never been paid by any company to leak
publisher,
stuff.
Yeah, okay.
But saying that doesn't necessarily mean that has been a part of their marketing plan, right? So for all I know, because it's impossible to verify or whatever, is that Activision could have had a drawing board on the whiteboard with my name at the top saying, we're going to make a fake Twitter account, we're going to send him these images of this game, and then we're going to tell him to talk about it, or a specific detail that we want feedback on. I don't know if that's ever been done, but it is possible.
Black helicopters.
That's super possible. Yeah.
So it's like I was talking about with the process of verifying somebody's legitimacy.
Right.
If somebody comes to me with a minute of gameplay or images or whatever it may be, and it's like
and their account was created yesterday.
Yeah, but then it's like I see this footage, I send it to a developer that might not be in on this internal plan or whatever it
they
is.
They weren't in the smoke-filled room where this plan was being drawn up. Yeah. Oh, this is fucking interesting. Go on, please.
So I don't know if that's ever happened. And to be honest, I bet that it probably has happened. There was a game recently where its marketing did leak, like some kind of documents. I can't remember which game it was, but there was, I think it was like a Capcom game maybe. But yeah, it came out that they was going to intentionally leak something out. It's for example, with the Warzone 2 leaks, we don't know if that entire build was created to get feedback on the armor and the bag system.
And your position is that if they are doing this, well, whether or not they are Activision's leaking it on purpose, you're saying the leaks on the bag system, for example, might serve to, as you said, gauge the community's position on this system, on this proposed system. And if everyone loses their fucking minds, then there might not be bags when there otherwise would have been, and therefore leaks served another good purpose in that example. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, yeah. So the bottom line is, like you were saying about the theory that the developers don't play the games, but it's like the reality is the past couple of Call of Duty titles have been lackluster. Yeah, you can blame it on COVID or whatever else, but the reality is the games are not where they should be, right?
Absolutely agree. Yes, 100% agree. Yeah.
It's like, obviously the developers are not getting it in some way. Their QA is having a shitload of problems right now with all of this unionization and stuff like that, and all the stuff that's going on over there. And then you have the playtesters that, I mean, what you've got to bear in mind is that playtesters play Call of Duty games before they release, so the content creators, stuff like that. But somewhere along this line, the feedback that the community would give is not being relayed during the development process.
And when it is, it's too late.
Yeah, so with Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2, playtesting has started so early this time that now it is the opportunity for changes to be implemented if the community or the playtester or whoever doesn't like. But like I said, we don't know that this whole playtest session could have just been made solid because they probably knew that it was going to leak. So it could have been just designed to get the feedback.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
On it without like the standard bullshit survey poll that they send out.
Yeah. Wow.
That's really big brain of them, actually. That's very smart to do if that's how they're doing it. That makes a lot of sense. Gain all the feedback based on how mad people get and then make changes when it's still possible to make changes and not too late.
And if everyone loses their mind, they can be like, oh, what are you guys talking about? We were never going to do that. We never made an official announcement.
Because
you guys just assumed it was true because there was a leak.
Yeah. And that's the same for leakers. It's like there's leaks that come out and then it gets proven wrong, and then the leakers just go, well, it's a leak. It was meant to be that date.
Yeah, fuck those people, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, even with the reveal date for Modern Warfare 2, I said it was going to be the end of May, I think, at one point, but it was always intended for June 8th.
Yeah. Yeah, you got it right. You got it like a day or two. Well, you probably got it 3 years ago, but you said it a day or two before that little artwork trailer thing. And I was like, God damn it, Tommy does it again, dude. Let's go. This is why we read his Twitter feed and not or go ahead.
So what we're getting on June 8th, have you seen what it is?
Ooh.
No.
Can you answer that?
I haven't seen what it is. No.
Interesting. Yeah, because we've been trying to guess, like, what is this? I'm guessing it's a campaign thing, but then I think they just came out a couple days ago and said the campaign reveal is now June 9th. So this is probably, I guess, just going to be some sort of multiplayer reveal, and I hope they tease DMZ in there somewhere. That's what I'm most excited for.
What I'm going to predict, I'm I'm going to predict that it's going to be basically campaign. Multiplayer is going to be in a couple of months. I'm going to predict that the reveal is just going to be the standard, really well done Call of Duty reveal trailer with campaign. There could be a little tease of MP at the end because that's what they've tend to do recently. But yeah, and then on June 9th, it is going to be a campaign mission. I'm not sure if it's in the entire mission. I probably doubt it would be because of the length of the Summer Games Fest show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would bet that it's going to be like just a hype trailer for Call of Duty.
They are good at making hype trailers, yeah, because I think they did that for MW 2019, and then like the last few seconds of like the first trailer or something, like last 10-15 seconds, they kind of showcased almost like a little multiplayer teaser, and then later, like you're saying, then they did like the full multiplayer
in
reveal.
That video too, Tanner, that you're talking about, at the end of the campaign trailer for MW, it said like, September 15th, 12 p.m. multiplayer reveal. They like nested it in the campaign reveal. I wouldn't be surprised if on June 8th, at the end of that piece of media where they show the ray tracing in the campaign, which is super cool or whatever, at the end there might be a date and it'll say, I don't know, June or May 5th multiplayer reveal, callofduty.com/live or some shit.
Maybe. I mean, it could be a Warzone 2 hint or something.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're going to push pretty hard. It seems a little
early for that, for me, but you would know better. So you think there might be a Warzone
It depends on when you think that Warzone 2 is going to release.
And that's a great segue into my next point here. Okay, so here are my assumptions. I think Tanner agrees with most of this about the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
MW 2 comes out on October 28th. Warzone 2, and with it, obviously, the new map that it's coming with, will release with Season 1 or Season 2 of Modern Warfare 2, which would be anywhere from January to March of 2023. This is based on when Warzone 1 came out with respect to MW 2019. Then in Season 3 or Season 4 of MW 2, they'll release their Rebirth Island corollary, their little baby map, the second map, as you've written about recently. And I'm basing this on some leaks, some actual release info, like the date, obviously, and from precedent. Now, I think some of this timeline is at odds with what you've said. I think you have written that Warzone 2 will release later than March of 2023. How does my timeline look? What do you think about it?
I've not said that Warzone 2 is later than March. I think that it's going to release December to January.
Oh, really? Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah.
What was I reading then? In that article, maybe it was the second map, the Rebirth map?
Yeah. So I said for Rebirth, I think I put something like presumably December 23, maybe?
Yes, that's what it was. I think it would come earlier than that, but you don't.
No. Because at the same time, what you've got to bear in mind is that what the original Warzone is playable. It's still a Call of Duty game. I think that's where a lot of people are maybe a little bit confused. It's like, will we be able to play Cold Era or will Verdansk return or whatever it may be? But
fucking
yeah,
idiots.
so both games are going to be playable, which would essentially fall in line with what they've been doing the couple of years, where you're getting a new map each year. So if you look at Warzone 2 is a new game, but if you just look at it as Warzone and you think to yourself, well, we're getting a new Warzone map this year, then it falls in line with the past couple of years. Because with Black Ops Cold War, we got Rebirth, then with Vanguard, we got Cold Era, right? And then
yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah. By the way, both games will be available. That is something I did not take for granted And I would imagine the server costs for Warzone right now are fucking insane. How long are they going to, in your view, keep Warzone 1 online once Warzone 2 comes out?
I mean, it's impossible to say, right? You don't know what Microsoft are going to do when they come in.
Oh, that too. Yeah, true.
But the whole purpose of Warzone 2 is because Warzone was not intended to be a multi-year game.
Oh, don't I know it?
Yeah, it was the dev talked about.
Yeah, Black Ops Cold War completely screwed up Warzone.
Sure did.
And
yeah.
the new tech with Warzone 2 is basically eliminating that. So Warzone 2 is being built with that in mind, that we are going to be using for the next, I don't know how many years. But in terms of Warzone support, it depends. I mean, people might not like what Warzone 2 brings. But then and again, they might, and the original Warzone might just end up like Blackout, for example, where it just dies off.
That's what I anticipate would happen.
Yeah, they could keep it up for years, technically, but it may just basically not have a player base.
It'd be dog shit, yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
With Call of Duty, you know what the community is like. After a month, they'll all want to go back to Warzone. And,
yeah, for sure.
So
they're all going to miss
we'll
Caldera.
Just have to see.
Yeah.
Everyone that hates Caldera is going to miss it when we get the new map.
Bring Caldera to Warzone 2, man. Fucking idiots. Anyway, yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
Well, I think we're going to get Warzone 2 more in line with what we had with Caldera rather than Warzone with Modern Warfare 2019, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because we did get Caldera with Season 1, right? I think we got it, about a month after Vanguard launch? Something like that.
It was, December. I think, personally, we'll be playing Warzone 2 by the end of the year, but...
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense, actually, because you wouldn't
dope.
think they would want to launch MW 2 at the end of October and then us not get the new Warzone title until March. That's going to kill any ounce of excitement that people had for Warzone if you have to wait that long, because everyone by that point will hate Modern Warfare 2 undoubtedly
100%.
and it'll just make Warzone 2 launch less interesting. So I do think that's the best thing they can do, is launch Warzone 2 ASAP after Modern Warfare 2 releases.
Yeah, what you got to think about with Warzone is that the success of Warzone has been the integration with the game that it's released with.
Yeah.
So like the progression that you can make between the games and stuff like that. So I think Season 1 is more likely. And yeah, I can't see them leaving it 5 or 6 months. It'll probably be Season 1 and then some bullshit challenges that you need to get in Warzone to unlock new weapons.
Cool. Yeah, okay.
We'll probably get it about December 18th, and then they'll all leave for their 2-week Christmas break, and we'll be messed with the bugs like they usually do.
I mean,
Krampus for 2 weeks,
man.
God
damn it. God damn you, Tom, because I was excited for a second. Oh, cool, December. That's earlier than March. This is fantastic. But Tanner's right, and you son of a bitch, Tanner is right. This is they do this every year. They do a giant Christmas cum fiesta, and then they have this huge update, add a bunch of dog shit most of the time that no one wanted anyway, and then it also doesn't work, and then they're gone for 2 weeks. Cool. Warzone 2, if it releases in December, unless it's the first week of December, put me on record now. Hey, I'm a leaker too now. If Warzone 2 releases anytime between December 7th and December 31st, the launch will be a disaster of biblical proportions, the likes of which you've never seen before, because it's going to be one of the biggest projects they've ever done. And if they release it that late, they will be saying, hey, enjoy the new game, and then they're going to go open Christmas presents. So I hope they release it real early in December if they're going to.
Yeah, I think what they'll do is they'll launch Season 1. It'll come with some nostalgic Modern Warfare 2 weapons, intervention or something, and it'll just be completely broken in Warzone 2.
Yep.
It'll
Absolutely.
make everybody buy Modern Warfare 2 for Christmas so they can rank it up faster, and then, yeah.
And then they'll be gone.
I think in one of their interviews,
getting one-shotted to the toe with full plates by the intervention. Smile.
I think Ted or someone recently on one of those interviews did say, or the other guy that does the interviews with Ted, I don't know what his name is, but he's like, I think he's Ted's boss basically for Raven. He had mentioned that they know they've made that mistake about doing these updates before Christmas. I remember in one of those interviews, he specifically said that. So I feel like they won't make that mistake again, because they did say, like, yeah, we know we push out these updates and then we aren't there to patch it. He said something along those lines in one of those interviews.
I hope that's true.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's jumping down the conspiracy rabbit hole, but it's like, yeah, it's always interesting how the new weapons are always broken within Warzone, and you need to buy the full game to rank it up faster.
Oh, yeah. This is, yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't even think that's a conspiracy. I think that's just good business, honestly. I don't even blame Activision for doing that. Hot take, you can still unlock it in Warzone. It's just a pain in the ass. They want to sell their new game, and especially when they release a steaming pile of dog shit like Vanguard, they got to get sales somehow. So here's another, I'm a leaker, here's another prediction for Warzone 2. It is going to be faster to level up MW2 guns in MW2 than it will be in Warzone 2. They are not going to make that mistake again. Because so many people are just not playing Vanguard because they can level Vanguard shit faster outside of Vanguard. That's not making them box sales on their games. They won't let that happen again. Just another thing.
Yeah.
So anyway. Yeah, that's interesting though. Okay. That I got a lot from that. So okay. Next. And now we're getting into the no comment territory potentially. So feel free to tell us no comment or just disconnect really if you get that.
Yeah, hear gunshots in the background, he'll leave suddenly.
Yeah. Well, what can you tell us about DMZ, if anything? And DMZ, for those of you who don't know, who haven't been abreast on the leak community, DMZ is a supposed new game mode coming to Call of Duty that is going to be similar to Escape from Tarkov. And that game is like, you have a little base and you have a persistent character who levels up, and you take in guns and armor and all that and food and water. And then you go on like a raid to some very big map and you kill shit, pick up guns, loot things. And then you have to extract from that map without dying, obviously. And then if you do, everything you picked up, you can put in your hideout and you just have it forever. But if you die while you're on that raid, everything on your character, all your guns and shit, it's gone. Someone else can loot it, or if they don't, then it just burns. You never get it back. And there's an insurance thing you can do, but that's getting into the weeds.
There's more too, but that's too confusing. Yeah,
exactly.
That's the basic premises of Tarkov.
That's the gist of what Tarkov is. So there's this DMZ mode that's been leaked that people are saying is Call of Duty's take on Escape from Tarkov. So again, I'll restate. What can you tell us about DMZ, if anything? From what you know, will DMZ release at launch with MW2? I find this wildly unlikely. And Warzone 2 will follow? Or maybe, with Season 1 of Warzone 2? Again, if Warzone 2 comes out at that time, I find that unlikely too. Maybe Season 2 of Warzone, or of MW2, DMZ comes out. What are your thoughts? And can you tell us anything in this vein?
So on the release, I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
But there's been quite a lot of conflicting information out there about the DMZ.
Can you confirm that this game mode is coming?
Yes.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because the 10-second footage that we saw leaked is from the DMZ.
Okay.
So I'm not going to... I mean, he probably wouldn't mind if I said his name, but I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus or whatever. But essentially, a leaker sent me that video I think it was November. And basically some leakers will send me stuff to then verify with my own sources or whatever. Right. So they sent me that and they say, can you verify this? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I sent it off to a developer, and as I was waiting for the reply, that same leaker said, this is the DMZ, if you know whatever that means. And I was like, I've never heard that before. The only thing I've heard of is that they're working on some kind of hazard zone-esque.
Was it that Battlefield's mod. BR?
That Hazard Zone was their take on an extraction-based game mode.
That's already dead. Didn't they already stop development on it or something?
Yeah. Battlefield's take on an extraction-based game mode, right?
Yeah. So the funny thing about Hazard Zone is that how I met one of my sources at Infinity Ward is that they was laughing at Hazard Zone, saying like, we're making something that's like that, but it's been built from the ground up. Where Hazard Zone, what Hazard Zone did is they took the multiplayer maps and then just added a game mode to it, basically, and then called it an entirely different experience.
Oh, like Ground War.
But with the DMZ, it's been built with that game mode in mind.
So are you when you say that, do you mean to imply that the DMZ map or maps will be distinct from the new Warzone 2 map?
It's my understanding that the DMZ and Warzone are going...
You're cutting out a little bit. Can you repeat that?
So it's my understanding that the DMZ map and Warzone 2 map are going to be the same map.
Okay.
But not necessarily one-to-one.
Okay.
So yeah, like Tarkov basically is one big map, but it's technically split up into other areas. So maybe be something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe there's some added objectives or little buildings or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah. So this footage was sent to me. They said it was the DMZ. As I was waiting for a reply, I then got the reply saying, "Oh yeah, this is the DMZ." So I'm like, "All right, cool." And then a couple of months later, there was another leaker that came out. I'm not going to say his name because he got actually caught by Activision.
Rip.
but yeah, that person sent us some images, which was of the Warzone 2 map. And I was looking at it, I was like, wait a minute, this is the DMZ map. So that's how the theory of
them being the same
came about. And then there were some particular leaks out there saying like the DMZ is going to have X amount of maps, this, that, and the other. And then when I asked the developer, like I usually do on, these kind of serious, as I'm doing quotation marks in the air, serious topics.
Yeah.
It's like the developer was essentially like, why the hell would we make 4 maps or 5 maps for one experience when we can just make it on the same map?
Yes, of course. And this is what Tanner and I said too. Like, these are gonna be the same map. They've done it before, and that's fine.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that at all.
I don't have a problem with that either. And if that means there's more dev time spent on like patching bugs, not that they'll do that anyway, but theoretically, and instead of making like a new map for no reason, I'm on board with that. So yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, even not knowing, like, even from the point of view of not knowing being worked on, like, if you look at the recent leaks of Warzone 2 with this armor system, these strongholds, a bag system, it's like, well, how easy is it for them then to change that into an extraction-based game mode? It's like you've got the AI already set up on the map, you've got strongholds that you need to raid, you've got this bag system where you can put all your loot in, you've got an armor system like Tarkov or whatever else, and it's like, well, it's all just there ready. And then from the point of view of even like game memory, like, are they really going to have Warzone 2 as a map and then 4 other maps that are going to take up who knows how much, gigabytes of space.
And they've
That's
said
what I
that
was
they
thinking,
want to
yes.
avoid that as well.
Yep.
So
they
that's
have.
another point to that end. Yeah. Okay. Great point. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I don't know when it's going to release. It could release with Modern Warfare 2, and then we're kind of getting like little snippets of the Warzone 2 map before that releases or something. So like getting people familiar with the map.
Let me ask you this. If you did know when it was going to release, but you did not want to share that information, or if you had a very good leak that you were very confident you knew about when it was going to release, but you didn't want to share, would you say that, or would you say what you're saying now?
If I knew, I would say that I know, but I'm not going to release it.
Okay.
I don't know.
I believe
they probably don't even know yet anyways.
That's
possible. It's probably still up in the air for them.
That's possible too, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty honest. Like, if I know something, say it straight up, I don't know.
Yeah, no. I wasn't accusing you of being dishonest.
No,
I was just saying, yeah, that might be a good way to not leak something. But yeah, okay, fair. And another point on this topic, like Exclusive Ace made a video on the DMZ mode, and he was basing this on leaks from your favorite leaker, I think. I don't know.
No, this was Tom's article.
No, the Exclusive Ace video was not.
Okay.
But and he was talking about this DMZ mode, and he was saying, "Oh, it's going to be Tarkov style, blah blah blah," and some of the things Ace was saying is that it was going to be very similar to Tarkov in that it is full loot. So, for example, if I go into a raid and Tanner kills me, my guns and armor are gone. I don't have those anymore. They are not mine anymore. And this, for example, and many other aspects of Tarkov, by the way, not just that's probably the biggest one. It's the most easy for non-Tarkov players to understand. That strikes me as wildly unlikely because this is entirely too hardcore and punishing for the casual, broad mass appeal that Activision aims for with a Call of Duty title. I don't think they're going to release a game mode that is like Tarkov in the sense of as hardcore as Tarkov or as punishing as Tarkov. I don't think it's going to be full loot. There might be some loot. I think maybe it will be such that everything you bring into the raid with you, you can't lose. But if you loot things in the raid and then die, you'll lose the things that you looted within the raid, but not things you bring in. I think that's too punishing, for example. I would be fairly surprised if there was a drinking and eating system like there is in Tarkov in this DMZ mode. I think that's too hardcore for Call of Duty players as well. The complete lack of any heads-up display, or virtually any heads-up display, I find this pretty unlikely too, because again, Call of Duty players are 14, or they're 45, and they're playing on TVs that are 40 inches, that have a 30 hertz refresh rate, and they're sitting on their couch while their toddlers are tugging at their pant legs saying, "Daddy, I haven't eaten all day, please feed me." These are the type of people for whom a Tarkov-like game would simply be too hardcore. What are your thoughts on this? How hardcore, how punishing would you expect, or do you know DMZ will be?
Yeah, I agree 100%. Call of Duty became successful on simplicity, and they're not going to sell the copies required to develop the mod based on the fact that it's a hardcore mod. Does that make sense?
Yes,
it's
exactly.
Like even Call of Duty hardcore, like the multiplayer hardcore mod, it's still Call of Duty. It's just you die in one bullet. There's no added difficulty.
I agree.
To it.
That's a hot take, by the way. Some people are going to be mad at you for saying that. I made a YouTube video once saying hardcore player. Basically, Tanner and I both said hardcore players in general are just not that good. It's called hardcore, doesn't mean you need more skill to play it. And you're right. Playing hardcore team deathmatch is no more punishing than playing core team deathmatch. That's not what we mean when we say hardcore in this conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good distinction. I'm glad you brought that up.
I don't think that it's going to be as as complicated as it's been made out to be. Maybe there's going to be some simplistic like cash system or token system or something like that. That's how Battlefield did it with Hazard
Someone
Zone.
else said something about tokens. Is any of this opinion you're saying and these predictions on how hardcore DMZ will be based on actual information you have, or is this all just conjecture?
This would be my predictions based on what I know about them.
Is there anything you know about DMZ that you have not yet shared?
Yes.
Okay.
Interesting. So I'm giving my prediction on based on what I know and
including things you haven't shared. Okay, this is good to know. It's good information to have.
Just basic logic, really.
Because if this mode is too hardcore, it's not even going to cater to the typical COD player. They would rather play multiplayer. They would rather play Warzone. Like, if it's going to be a hardcore DMZ type mode, their goal is obviously to try to bring new people over to the title that don't usually play Call of Duty, maybe try to steal people from Tarkov. But like, at the end of the day, I feel like making a Tarkov style game mode is just going to give more publicity to Tarkov or something, and then just not bring in that many players, honestly.
If it's too much like Tarkov, guess what people will play if they want that style of game? Tarkov.
Yeah.
So, exactly. I think you're right. Like, if this was super hardcore and is just as punishing and in-depth as Tarkov was, you think Landmark's going to come play it? No. He's going to keep playing fucking Tarkov.
He plays Warzone. He said that.
Yeah. Yeah, for a couple days, yeah. Okay, interesting. Is there anything you can say presently about DMZ that we have not talked about yet today?
No.
Okay. I figured. I just had to ask.
I had to say no, but I need to.
No, that's okay. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
We don't want to fuck with you. So, okay, cool. Very interesting.
Yeah, I just want to say I think you're right about the rumors out there that it's going to be the ultra hardcore mod. Okay. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that it's Call of Duty's take on an extraction based game mode is what I'll say. That
communicates a lot too, because that's a totally different thing than saying it's their take on Tarkov. Because when you say extraction based, you're not implying all the hardcore aspects that Tarkov has.
Yeah, so I think when I did my first report, I did this report via VGC, so it was corroborated by the entire VGC team, so to speak. So, take that as you will. But I think in that report we said that it will be like Call of Duty's take on a Tarkov game mode, but it's not necessarily that. It's more so an extraction-based game mode. And the thing that you find with these leaks is that if somebody does leak that is very accurate, but maybe they slip up on a word, for example, saying Tarkov instead of extraction-based.
People read too much more into that than the leak intended.
Yeah, that's what for sure I do.
That makes a lot of sense, and I agree with that.
Yeah, because we had made a TikTok out of that, talking about our thoughts on this DMZ mode, and we're like, it will not be hardcore like you guys are thinking. And then a bunch of comments were basically like, well, then what's the point? Like, this doesn't make, like, your guys' thoughts don't make any sense if, like, you don't, like, fully lose your gear. And it's like, I agree with you, but it's Call of Duty. How hardcore do you think it's going to be?
Could still be fun.
It's about the most casual first-person shooter in existence.
Well, it might be the case where you do lose. It might be the case where, in terms of the mod being hardcore, it's just low health. It's just like hardcore multiplayer. But I think that might lose all your loot. I mean, even the Warzone 2 leaks with the bag system seems to suggest that could be the case, because you can put your weapons inside your bag. So maybe that changes your opinions a little bit or whatever. But it's not going to be as in depth as like you've got this huge locker full of intervention sniper rifles or whatever.
What about the reason it's called Vault Edition? Tanner, remember? You made a beautiful observation. I think Call of Duty officially announced that there was their like ultimate edition of this game is going to be called the Vault Edition. And Tanner was like, yeah, like a Tarkov stash. It's like a vault. And this is more, in my opinion, corroboration that there is a DMZ mode, and it's going to be similar to Tarkov in that way. It's like, why would you call it a Vault Edition? Like, players are going to have vaults to store shit in DMZ.
Yeah, but it might not be as hardcore as Tarkov. It might just be like the fact maybe you extract and you've got you've brought with you from the game, I don't know, a sniper rifle, an assault rifle, a couple of bundles of money. It might just be the fact that, this sniper rifle is worth 300 credits, this assault rifle is worth 200, this ammo stash is 50 or whatever, and then maybe there's a shop or something like that where you can spend it on and that's, blah blah blah.
Yes, for sure.
But yeah, they've been messing about with a lot of different things, a lot of different systems. So it's
and let's get into that. So there are a lot of leaks coming out. I don't know how many of these originated with you. I'm pretty sure you've talked about. You've definitely talked about some of this, if not all of it. So I'm just going to read this whole thing. A lot of leaks are coming out, such as the bag system. And the bag system leak is that in Warzone 2, you're going to have a bag like you have in Apex, rather than the current inventory system in Warzone, which is that you don't have to do inventory management at all. You just run over something, and if you don't have full plates and you run over plates, you pick up the fucking plates. You don't have to like decide whether you want more AR ammo or more sniper ammo. That's what we mean by bag system, for example. And Strongholds are coming to Warzone 2, in addition to the bag system. And people keep saying that this is coming to Warzone 2, which most people are assuming means that this is coming to the core Battle Royale experience. I find this assumption, specifically with respect to the bag system, I find the assumption that they are going to take the best inventory system ever designed in a BR, which is the current Warzone inventory system, where I don't have to open my bag like an asshole and play Tetris, that they're going to ruin that and downgrade to do I want another clip of AR? Well, I have to drop my fucking stims, smile. I find that assumption so absurd that it offends me. And I don't know if Activision is dumb enough to not recognize that one of the very good things they've done with Warzone is massively streamline and simplify their inventory system, that they would go to a bag system, essentially. And when I hear about the bag system, I think, okay, cool. People are saying there's a bag system because they've seen it coming to Warzone 2, the BR. But I think if there is a bag system coming, it will be for the DMZ mode and only for the DMZ mode. And I find it wildly unlikely or insanely stupid of Activision to think that this new bag system, where I'm going to have to do inventory management in BR, is coming to BR also. What are your thoughts on that? If you can share.
I mean, ultimately what we've got to remember is that in active development.
Okay.
One of the things that I can definitely share is that when all of these leaks came out from the playtesting session, when you killed an enemy, bags did drop on the floor, but I think there was like, because they was working on it, also like shotgun and sniper rifle ammo also fell on the floor.
Was the playtesting DMZ, or was it playtesting Core BR though?
Core BR, Warzone 2.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go on.
So, I mean, the fact that the bag system was dropping and then shotgun ammo and sniper rifle ammo was also falling onto the ground just should show you that it's not completely decided on. And that's why I referred to back before.
Okay.
For all we know, that this whole system could have been just leaked, just to get the community's opinions.
That feedback.
But yeah, I think that Activision's and Infinity Ward's own wording on Warzone 2 is that it is going to be an evolution of the original Warzone. And there could be a little bit of thinking about it there, it could be, what do they mean by evolution? Is it stuff like the bag system? Is it stuff like the armor system? Is it stuff like Strongholds?
Right. That could mean anything, really. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's in active development. From what I've been told, the bag system is in Warzone 2 at this moment in time. They've also had the current Warzone system in place. I think they've even messed around with how it's done on like Apex Legends Mobile. Well, like it's like a crate or a bag, and then you run to it, and it only gives you what you need.
Oh.
So if you've got an assault rifle and an SMG, it will prioritize you by giving you that specific ammo type.
Okay, interesting.
But the evolution with this bag system is that now you can add a weapon to it, so you don't necessarily need to just have two guns.
Okay, so a way that this could be done well, and I'm glad you said that. So here's now what I'm thinking. Here's a way to do this well. If you want a bag system in Core BR, you have the Warzone 1 inventory system where you don't have to manage shit for your ammo or your plates or your tactical or your lethal or your two guns. They have dedicated slots. You don't need a bag for any of this. You can always pick it up if you have room for more AR ammo, for example. And then on top of that, you can add a bag system where if you want to carry a third weapon that you can't swap to with a keybind, you'd have to open your inventory and drag it into your character, for example. And that was all the bag system was. Now I'm kind of on board with that. That actually sounds pretty cool. I was just under the actually stupid assumption that a bag system meant that they would be also removing all the dedicated slots, all the good things about the current inventory system. Is that more what you are thinking or talking about?
What I would say with these leaks on Warzone 2 is that they're not necessarily how they seem. Like, for example, with Strongholds, It's like, oh shit, we need to go into this stronghold, fight AI, blah blah blah, to get our loadout. But it's like, well, the reality is there's AI already in Warzone now.
Yeah,
like AI isn't. Well, it's nothing.
New. Yeah,
It's like it's just an added element to Warzone 2, and I guess this is a hot take of mine, but I feel like at this particular moment in time, Warzone is basically the first team to get to 10k cash, get your loadout, then play. Whereas if there's added elements to that where like you need to get a key to unlock your loadout in a stronghold, so I guess that's a little hint of what the strongholds are, because I don't think that's been revealed yet.
Ooh,
is that you need to get
exclusive.
you need to get a key by looting in order to unlock the stronghold.
Okay.
So, yeah. So I it's an added element that I understand that people are a little bit cautious of because it's new. But it's like, just because it's new, it doesn't necessarily be bad, and an added element to a BR isn't bad, right? It's like,
well,
it's like at least let them try it and see how the community reacts.
that's true. If they're willing to change it, then I agree with you. Yeah.
Because
go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say the playtesters actually enjoyed the Stronghold system, based on the 3 people that I spoke to that played it.
Okay. That's
but
good.
I don't necessarily take the opinions of developers on these things, because it's like, well, they spent months designing it.
That's the correct take. Yeah. I don't trust the developers' opinions.
I learned heavily with Battlefield 2042, put it that way, that taking a developer's opinion is something you shouldn't do.
You should just take the exact opposite of what they say.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying, okay, so you can access a loadout. By the way, this is confirmation we're keeping loadouts. The least surprising thing I've ever heard, and of course we are. But okay, so now we know that. And I didn't need a leak to tell me that. Of course they're going to bring back loadouts. It's the most good thing about Call of Duty's BR is the loadout system, so that's no surprise. But one thing Tanner and I were talking about with respect to this Stronghold shit, if it's true that you can get your loadout from a Stronghold in the core BR experience, that can be either good or very bad, depending on whether or not that is the only way to acquire a loadout. Is it the case that the only way to get a loadout is to raid a Stronghold, or is this merely another avenue you can opt into taking or not, and you can get a loadie some other way? Can you share any info on that?
So from the play tests, I'm trying to remember that there wasn't the ability to buy it. I know that.
But that could have just been the play test.
Yeah, but that could have just been the play test. And I think there also wasn't random drops. So like the Circle 2 and Circle 5 or whatever it is. But then and again, it's like they've already got those systems in place. It's not hard to incorporate. But also it's like, well,
yeah, exactly.
It's like they're just testing something different. There's nothing. It's what game development is. It's testing what people like, what people don't
not
like.
The whole thing.
And
exactly.
Yeah. And personally, I think I don't know. I think that it could be a good system. Like I said, I think that the current Warzone meta is to just get to 10k, get your load out, and then it's just killing people. So it's just like, I don't know. It's just I think added elements could be pretty cool, because you had like. From my understanding in the playtest, you had a lot of people landing at like the big strongholds, which made it for a very hectic gameplay where you're fighting against players and AI, whereas some people will land in far out at a random small stronghold where you could still get your load out, but then you was, far away from the action and whatnot. So I think it could be interesting, but yeah, it's just something that
okay, so LaVoxino L said the first good chat message they ever said in his life. What does a stronghold look like? Can I team? Okay, never mind. He didn't say anything good. So yeah, but the question is, what else? What is a stronghold? What can you tell us about a stronghold? And also, you just said something else, which is that there exist big strongholds and small strongholds. Now that implies there's some extra reason that you might want to go to a big stronghold rather than a small stronghold, because based on the current information I have, if the only thing you can get at a stronghold is a loadout, and your goal is to get a loadout as quickly as possible, which will be my goal in Warzone 2, I'm going to the tiniest rinky-dink dogshit stronghold I can, so that I only have to kill one fucking guy with a pistol, AI, and then rip the key out of his pocket and take my loadout with little resistance. I would never choose to go to a big stronghold that's more difficult to contend with, unless there was something beyond merely a loadout that I would get from that. So what does it mean for there to be a big stronghold versus a stronghold? And further, what is a stronghold?
So I don't want to get into the specifics of what different strongholds will have.
Okay.
But I will say from the playtests is that the bigger the stronghold, the more loot there was. So obviously you could get your loadout, but what's the point in getting a sniper rifle if you're only going to get 8 bullets? Or,
right, exactly. Okay.
Or whatever. And the bigger the stronghold, the better armor, for example. So obviously it goes from 1 to 3, level 1 to 3.
So we're moving away from a plate system?
Oh, yeah. It's an armor system now. I'll get into that in a
Has this been leaked before?
We talked about all this. We covered this. He wrote this whole article. We covered this 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I just assumed it was DMZ only. So that is coming to
that's
regular
what we had said.
Warzone.
That was for Warzone. That whole thing was Warzone.
Oh.
So people... That's the problem, is that there's some confusion there, because it's like the strongholds in AI, you would assume that's the DMZ, but this was Warzone.
Okay, so we are moving to an armor classification system.
Yeah,
like there's tier 1 armor, which is dog shit, and then tier 2 armor, which is better or something. Are there going to be plates on top of that?
Yes. So basically it's a mix Blackout and Warzone.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, you'd get, if you get level 1 armor, you can, and if you get 2 plates, level 3 plates. So it's like a combination of both.
Okay. So there are different classifications of the armor shell and also the plates that will be able to be inserted into that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we were just saying there is now there's a plate system and an armor tier hybrid system. That is pretty cool. I wonder, are buy stations coming back?
Yes.
Okay. And can you buy armor at buy stations?
Yes.
Okay. Can you buy all classifications of armor?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think you can buy the specific tier. Yeah. So that's where the incentive comes into.
That makes sense.
Go to the bigger strongholds.
Okay.
And as well as armor, there's also, obviously, you get your ammo, you get kill streaks, you can get pro perks.
Pro perks?
Oh, pro perks.
Whatever else. Yeah.
Pro perks. Interesting. Okay. So
we had guessed that the reason they added lootable perks into Warzone now, and a lot of things they're doing with the current iteration of Warzone, is essentially testing to see to gauge player feedback and see how well it works for the next iteration of Warzone. Do you think that loadout drops will not have perks for some reason and will all be ground loot, and then you can upgrade those through the buy station? Do you know at all how that system works?
I think that the loadout system is still going to be the same. This is one of those weird things where I don't really ask developers about specifics, because it's I mean, it could be one thing this week, different the next. Right. But and it's a little bit complicated to answer, because the people who did play test, and like I said earlier on, is that the play testers are the most likely to leak information. But the problem is with play tests is that they was given predetermined loadouts.
Got it.
So they wasn't able to go into the menu, create their classes and stuff like that. So that's where it gets a little bit complicated. But I think that these pro perks are essentially going to be what we've already seen in Warzone before, picking up dead silence and stuff like that. So I would imagine that they would just be an extension of the perks that you've already got.
Oh, okay. So now I'm a little confused. Maybe you can clarify something. Last time I played a game with pro perks, it was fucking MW3 or something. And basically it was okay, if you take lightweight and you sprint for 5 kilometers, you get lightweight pro, and then every time you ever use the lightweight perk, you have the pro version.
Yeah.
It's just another thing to level up. So how does that transfer to Warzone? So let's say all my perks in multiplayer, for example, are pro versions of the perks, because I have no life and I've leveled them all up to pro status. when I make a loadout in Warzone with lightweight, do I not have lightweight pro anymore and I have to loot it?
Yeah, I think in Warzone it will be that you don't have the pro versions on your class.
So would that be in addition to being able to loot perks that you don't have at all? So let's say I didn't take lightweight. Can I loot lightweight off the ground and then have that?
I'm not entirely sure.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, the way that I was told is that it's basically you'll get the pro version of your perk. So I don't know if you
That's a good system. I actually kind of like that better than the current system we have, because I think it's a little less RNG cancer and toxic if I can just loot, like, I don't know, EOD Pro, than being able to loot fucking Tempered, where I now have to plate less. I actually kind of like that a lot. If it is the case that the only perks you can loot are pro versions of perks you've already selected, I would like that quite a bit. But then the question would be, let's say if I haven't gotten my loadout yet, am I just barred from unlocking any perks?
Well, you could just put it in your bag or whatever it is.
Oh, so it would be like an actual item.
Yeah. So it's like a kill streak from what I from my understanding.
So then let's say I loot lightweight pro, and then I get my loadout, and my loadout class has amped. I could either use amped or lightweight pro, and I could swap them as I want.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
You probably haven't seen enough gameplay for all these specifics. Yeah.
It would probably be the case where if you had
you cut
looted.
Out. Can you repeat that? Sorry, you cut out.
Yeah, so it could be the case where if you looted the pro perk that you don't have, that maybe you can just, well, it would be useless to you, so you could give it to a teammate or whatever it may be.
That could be possible too, I see.
But I would imagine, based on that theory, that there would be more chance of a more frequent pro perk dropping than other perks, so maybe on Infinity Ward side or whatever it is, they would be looking at the data, seeing what everybody's running, and yeah, there's a 20% chance this pro perk's going to drop rather than another perk that just nobody uses or whatever.
Yeah,
I see.
That's what I would imagine would happen.
Okay, that makes sense. So now I'll ask, lastly, anything else you can or want to share about Warzone 2/DMZ? And also, are there any misconceptions floating around that you would like to clear up about these things? And MW 2, in fact.
Not really. The only misconception, rumors that I've not personally heard. So I guess it's, whoever you want to believe or whatever it is, then it is what it is. These are leaks. I could be wrong. They could be wrong. Right. Whatever it may be.
Right.
It's just that it's very unusual. What I will say is that it's very unusual for two leakers or two people to have conflicting information, especially on this scale, for such a big part of the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
If there's conflicting information about a weapon coming, that's completely different to an entire game mode.
Yeah. Let me ask this actually as well. I don't really give a shit about it, so that's why I didn't even write it down, but I might as well ask. There was one thing, I don't know where Tanner and I read this, but like someone leaked, maybe it was you, I don't know, that there's going to be another new game mode coming to MW 2 called, what was it called, Tanner? Fucking hostage situation or some shit? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh.
Oh, like a
I think
Rainbow
that was
Six Siege.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a while ago. I haven't heard anything about that.
I've not heard anything about something like that.
In a while or ever?
Ever.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought.
But yeah, I think I did ask about it, and I just got like, yeah, that's not a thing or something like that. I can't remember.
That's kind of what we said.
Yeah, that's kind of what we had guessed. I think it was like they had made it seem like it was going to be like some massive like own game mode more similar to Siege, but I think what I said is it'll probably be something like VIP Escort in Cold War, just some small game mode that's being blown out of proportion, like it's some massive new thing, but it's just a game mode that no one will realistically ever play.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it'll just be S&D, but with a hostage.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So someone like just blew it out of proportion. That's what we suspected. Yeah. Just wanted to be sure. Okay. So nothing else on Warzone 2, DMZ, or MW 2 that we should talk about.
Not that I can think of. Yeah, we should hear about it soon though, but I'm just going to say in a few months, just to.
Yeah. Okay. And by the way, you said you are on record that you are sitting on information that you nor anyone has yet revealed. Can you give the listeners a timetable on when you might fuck around and reveal that information?
I might be revealing quite a lot of stuff in the next
10 minutes. Just kidding.
Let me have a look at the calendar. In the next 30 days, maybe.
Once the ball starts rolling with the MW2 reveal and all
30
that.
days. So this is, by the way, hey, and stay mad, Tom, the big deduction guy here, okay? He said in the next 30 days, we all know June 8th something is happening. There's going to be the reveal. This is confirmation, strong confirmation, that there's going to be some other Call of Duty piece of media coming out between June 9th and, I don't know, May 4th. So what's that going to be? Wait, July 4th. Yeah, months. So just so you know, guys, Tom didn't say that, and he's not breaking any agreements or betraying anyone's trust by anything he just said. But I'm telling you, something's happening between the 8th of this month and the 4th of next month. Very interesting.
I also didn't say it would be official. Let's just clear that out.
And he also, and to be clear, guys, which is what I just said, he also didn't say it was going to be official. So just keep that in mind as well. That's okay. So it could be the case that one of your Leaker Guild friends you are expecting or know is going to leak something in 30 days, and then you're going to like build on top of that. That's also possible. For example, the possibilities are endless, really. Okay, good to know. And we're going to get more into how people can stay abreast on you and your leaks, because as the kids say, noties on for the next 30 days. Am I right, fellas? So keep that in mind. Very good to know. So Tanner, you have a little point here, which is interesting. Why don't we share this point with Tom?
Yeah, this is another question I thought of today. So there have been a lot of rumors floating around the last few months about a potential standalone zombies title that Call of Duty is developing or will be developing. So with Activision skipping the yearly release in 2023 and us not getting a main title game, do you think, is there any chance that they are working on some sort of zombies standalone title, free to play, some sort of version of Warzone that they can progress on over time and it be just zombies? Can you see anything like that coming, or do you know anything?
There is going to be a filler game in 23. I'm not entirely sure on the size of the project or something like that, but what I will say is that it would be criminal for them to not do something for zombies in the next 2 years. The Call of Duty Zombies community is a very dedicated community, but they're actually pretty it's a much larger audience than what you would think. A lot of people have played Call of Duty Zombies, and I have heard that there was a standalone Zombies title in development at some stage, but that's just one of those things that you hear about.
Yeah, we've been hearing that for years now.
Yeah, I would expect something, but then and again, could they be saving themselves for something huge in 24 with Treyarch? But maybe we'll just have to see.
Okay. Yeah. My position, I'm so glad Tanner brought this up, because my position, Tanner and I, both of our positions on this, when we got the news that there was going to be no COD game, like no new box game that they sell for 60, 70, whatever, United States dollars, or I don't know, 3,000 pounds, whatever inflation's like there, the dollar's better. In 2023, I was like, okay, well, they're not just going to not be the number one selling game of the entire calendar year for the year 2023. Call of Duty has been the highest grossing video game of each calendar year for the last 4 decades or whatever. They're not just going to not make that money in 2023. There's zero fucking chance. So if they are not selling a box game for 2023, they are going to do something else that is its own kind of big deal and project. And it might be like a free-to-play game that they monetize with microtransactions, kind of like they do with Warzone. But I think it's going to be something besides Warzone that is going to, again, fill the massive revenue hole that they will experience with not releasing a game in 23. And they're going to release something else that's really big for that year, so that they can not get their rented out hotel lobby burned with all of them inside at the shareholder meeting. They're going to do something. So Tanner asked, effectively, is that thing going to be a Zombies title? And you've said you're not really sure. If it's not a Zombies title, what do you agree with my assessment that something that something is going to fill that revenue hole, and it's going to be something big for the year 23? And if you do or don't, let us know, obviously. And do you know what that is? Or do you have a suspicion about what that is? Or do you have any information about what that is?
I would say that I think that something is going to release in 23 that would be similar to Warzone in terms of the tie-in.
In terms of the, what did you say?
Like the tie-in in the sense that it's connected to Modern Warfare 2 in some way.
Okay.
Because Warzone's success is the fact that it was making people obligated to essentially buy the premium title.
Yes. And selling, $3 million per day in microtransactions is because of Warzone as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was, at its peak, it was ridiculous. But, I think that it is criminal that we got something good for Zombies with Vanguard, and I think that we should see something
Vanguard Zombies.
Major letdown there.
So you don't
maybe it's
know
something to do with Warzone Mobile.
Oh, it could be Warzone Mobile for 23. That would fill the revenue hole. Again, my contention is they're going to fill this revenue hole with something big. And I'm just asking, do you know what that is?
I'll say that they want Modern Warfare 2 to still be the best-selling game in 2023.
Okay. So you know something. Interesting. Okay, yeah. Okay, that makes sense, though. Is it fair to say that is not DMZ? DMZ is not the thing we're talking about.
No, I think DMZ's coming
sooner
on launch or with Warzone 2.
Okay. Okay. So it's not DMZ then. Okay. And it's also probably not Zombies. Is that correct? Or is that a no comment? Okay.
No comment.
No comment. Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting.
I mean, yeah, I've heard a lot of different things into this title. So
okay.
Well, this project, should I say, not title, but project.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Very interesting. Tanner, I'm so fucking glad you asked that question. I don't know how we almost forgot that, but really good question. Okay.
Yeah, because I think COD in general is really, they're missing something with zombies that could be huge. We talked about this like during Cold War life cycle. They started something with Outbreak, and that could definitely be built on, I think, really well. There needs to be some sort of a zombie PvP, PV zombies game, and I think that could be massive, super large-scale maps. I think they could come up with something really fun to play that zombie lovers would enjoy, and also casuals would also really like to play it too. There's something there where you can implement PvP and the zombies experience in one, I think, and I hope we end up seeing that sometime soon.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Tom? A standalone zombies title or experience where you can also PvP in addition to killing zombies?
Yeah, I agree. I think the zombies is very untapped. Yeah, I can see a zombies campaign and stuff like that. I think there's a lot that they could do with it. But it's just
okay.
It's missing something.
All right.
But yeah.
Okay, so let's start wrapping this bitch up. And you've been very generous with your time thus far, and we really appreciate it. A couple more questions, if you don't mind sticking around a little longer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What is the number one misconception about leaking or your enterprise that you would love to see cleared up, if anything?
Just that leaks are leaks. That it's not official, it's not facts. A lot of people seem to run with what said, not by other people, but by myself as well. It's like, especially over the past 2 years, when people have had more time on their hands, like, leaking has become more official in a sense.
More of a grift for some people.
Yeah. But it's like, at the end of the day, a leak's a leak, and you shouldn't
put too much stock in it.
Yeah, you shouldn't necessarily run with it, even if it comes from a trusted person that you know. That's the biggest misconception.
Okay.
About leaking.
I think that's a great point, and I agree. Because even if, like you said, a leak comes from a trusted person, it's like, maybe they didn't get the whole picture. Maybe their source doesn't have the whole picture. Or maybe Activision or whatever gaming company changes their mind later. There's like so many things that could be the case. Like your example of the 8 maps for Vanguard thing. It's like, yeah, I was shown 8 maps. And I just thought that meant there were going to be 8 maps. But there were like more than 8 maps. And that was like that's like a thing where it's like, hey, well, I mean, that's why this is a leak. It's like, these things happen. Don't take them as gospel. I think that's a great point to mention. Which other leakers besides you should we trust, if you want to name them?
I'm not going to name anyone, but I would only trust leakers that are insiders, or whatever you want to call them. I would only trust the people that write for reputable websites, because there is like media law in place and stuff like that, where you need to ensure that the information has been corroborated by like 2 or 3 sources and stuff like that.
So the fact that IGN will allow X leaker to write this article, the fact of it coming from IGN means necessarily that the due diligence was done prior to the article's publication, and therefore that leaker can be trusted.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, actually, yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's the website's reputation on over the leakers in a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And they're going to take that shit real seriously.
Yeah. But, yeah. I mean, in my case, I'm not necessarily writing for reputable websites, but that's just because I don't like what they pay to be. to be honest, it's like,
yeah,
I can make
more on a YouTube video,
5 times more, on a YouTube video,
exactly,
or by writing for a different website. And then also, in terms of trusting other people, I would definitely look back at what they've actually said.
That's such a great point, man. Yeah. Look at their track record. Because here's one insipid thing these little fucking rats do all the time, is they will leak something. They'll leak 8 things a day. Okay? They'll tweet 8 different leaks a day. And then just wantonly, no regard for how true any of it is. And then when one out of the 50 things they tweeted about 6 months ago comes true, they'll quote tweet themselves and they'll be like, oh, I did it again, I'm a fucking god, and jerk themselves off on the TL. And it's like, okay, well, we've all forgotten by now the other dumb shit, the 49 other dumb fucking things you said 6 months ago. Most people have, because those aren't the things you're quote tweeting. Oh, I was wrong. There aren't going to be fucking monkeys in downtown. Oops. I'm not gonna like talk about that ever again. I'm just gonna throw shit at the wall, and whatever does come true, I'm gonna quote tweet clout farm, because I'm a clout shark demon, and pretend that this makes me credible, even though my success rate, of course, is 2%. That is a great point, and you really should. I would go a step further than you on this point, in my opinion. If someone's leaking 5 things a day, they're bullshit. There's no way they're getting all of this right. I just don't believe it. And if you wanted to, you could go back and scrub their timeline and find a bunch of shit that didn't happen. Oh, Terminal's coming to Modern Warfare. Suck my cock and balls to people who said that and a million other things that were just false. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, clock's right 2 times a day.
Exactly. Exactly.
In addition to that, I would also say look at who else is covering that information.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
If IGN's sourcing that information, if Charlie Intel sourcing that information, GameSpot sourcing that information, they have their own sources. They ain't going to put bullshit out, So look at who's sourcing the information. Not necessarily content creators, because they'll upload whatever, but
they sure will. Yeah.
But look at which websites are also publicizing that information, and especially if they also say that they can corroborate that information. So I think VGC's done it a few times with me. GameSpot's done it a few times. Just see who's corroborating and the chatter around it, because sometimes some information will leak on Twitter. It gets loads of retweets, but all of the reputable websites don't cover it, and there's a reason.
And by the way, another thing I really like about you specifically is you will often be on the TL saying, it's getting a lot of retweets about this crazy leak that's supposedly coming. Let me just tell you, this ain't true. You'll be doing God's work on the timeline a lot with a lot of these outlandish leaks that get a billion retweets from these clout demons, and you will say like, "Hey guys, hold on, this is bullshit." Here's another quick question: how often do you do that? How often do you see a leak and you know it's not true, and you say that it's not true? Do you pretty much always do that?
I find it difficult to keep my mouth shut, especially
when I've had a drink. Dude. Fuck these clout demon sharks.
Yeah, especially when I've had a drink.
I
say it when I see fit, and I don't really let the like just the fact that some person's leaked it first really get in the way of it. It's like, yeah, they've leaked it first because it's bullshit.
Because they did it too early. They didn't do their due diligence, and it's horseshit, right?
Yeah. So yeah,
good for you.
That's what I'll say about that.
That's another reason we love you, is because you'll smite these clout demons with the wrath of God on the timeline.
Yeah.
And it's very gratifying. Okay, so now, last question. Anything else you would like to talk about, share, anything?
Nope. See you later.
Got it. All right. And he's gone. Okay, so Tom, listen, man, this episode was 1,000 times even better than I thought it was going to be. I actually learned a lot. This cleared up a lot of misconceptions I have, both about leaking in general and also specifically about Warzone 2. And I found this very edifying on both of those fronts. And you've been very generous with your time, and we really appreciate having you on. So thank you very much. And anytime you want to come back, by the way, slide in those DMs because they're super open. This has been really enjoyable for Tanner and I think everyone listening is going to enjoy this a lot as well. So thank you very much. How can people best support you? Where can people find you? What would you like to plug? How can people make your life better than it currently is?
Well, my PayPal email is...
Okay.
No, I'm joking. Just follow me over on Twitter. It's @_Tom_Henderson_. That's just because I've had 4 accounts in the past 3 years, I think.
Why is that?
Just leaking.
Just life, man.
Are you getting DMCA smited by Activision and EA?
I was at one point.
I see. Okay.
I've learned my lesson, so yeah.
So that
just follow me over on Twitter. With a lot of
risks, by the way. If you tweet a DMCA image, the worst thing that's happened to you is you just get banned on that Twitter account. Yeah.
So typically, a lot of images that do leak are, like I said about the codes on the screen and stuff, like that's how they'll try. Basically, they don't really care about, well, they do care that it's leaked, but they don't necessarily care about the person who's leaked it. It's more so the original
they
source
just want
of
it off
information.
Yeah. Okay. So on Twitter @_Tom, or no, @Tom_Henderson_.
No, the underscore in the start.
Tom.
That's why I just added it.
Jesus Christ. Okay. All right. Yeah. We will have links to the social media in the description of this video and this podcast. So follow him on Twitter. And then also you make money on YouTube ad revenue. What's the YouTube?
It's just Tom Henderson, but I don't really.
I'll link to it.
I don't really. But yeah, just follow on Twitter, and if you see an article published by me, check it out. Click on it.
Yeah,
it helps out a lot.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, to all of you listening, please give Tom a follow on Twitter. If you like leaks, this is the guy you should follow. I don't think reputable leaks ever come out that you don't share on Twitter. So for example, I was saying Ralph's aorta or whatever, he's reputable too, and maybe he leaks some things first, but if that is the case, Tom will talk about it. I would assume at some point.
So if other leakers, how it works is that if another leak something and it's true, then you of course want to corroborate it, and if I write an article on it, I'll give that person the courtesy of saying this person leaked it first. I can corroborate.
Right.
But at the same time, if that person has leaked something that I don't personally can corroborate or whatever, then it's well, I've got to call you out, or
you gotta clear up.
You know what I mean? It's I've not personally heard this with Modern Warfare 2 VR stuff. I didn't hear anything on that, so it's well, keep your expectations in check, kind of thing. Because
for sure. There's no money yet. VR's still too expensive. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't do a dick for VR. The money's not there. But yeah, but my point in saying that, by the way, for those of you listening, was that if you follow Tom Henderson on Twitter, then even if he's not leaking the reputable thing, he'll talk about the reputable thing. In other words, on his timeline on Twitter, you will find every conceivable reputable leak, excuse me, whether or not it comes from him. Many of them will come from him, some won't, but he'll talk about them. And he'll clear up the record on dog shit that is getting retweeted and finds itself and worms its way into your timeline. Likewise, if you're following Tom, you'll know if it's true or not, because he will talk about it. So he's the only follow you really need on Twitter for your leaking insider needs. And we will link as well to his YouTube in the show notes and video description. Tom, again, thank you very, very much for joining us. I hope you had fun. I hope we didn't get too aggressive with the questioning or try to extract too much from you. I hope you had a good time. And we really
I loved it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming on, man.
Yeah. Like I said, I do genuinely watch when I can, and it's been an honor. So I appreciate it. And if you ever want me back, just reach out again, and we'll see if we can make it happen.
For sure.
Sounds great.
Yeah, and that offer applies to you as well. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. Thank you all for watching and listening. Have an excellent evening, of course. And as always, remember, stay humble.
Stay humble.